I have a person X who drinks the water from lakes and rivers, and a person Y who is drinking the water from the seas and ocean. So after a day, I am observing the person X is very fit and fine, and he drank about 9 glasses of water a day. And I'm seeing the person Y that he is dead because of dehydration, and he has drank a total of 29 glasses of water. Why? Because of the salinity in the water. And a question for you, that why the sea water and the ocean water are saline? Why they contain salt in it? So without wasting our time, let's start our video. This is Omkar Padi and welcome to Talented Sir, where you will get very interesting video with free of cost. So let's start our video. So what happens that the seas and the ocean contains the saline water. So this saline water comes from the two main reasons. One is from the rainfall and one is from the hydrothermal vents. So what happens that when the clouds release water, so what happens, the raindrops comes in the contact with the carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is present in the atmosphere. So what happens, the water and the carbon dioxide gets mixed and they perform some acid in nature. And you have seen that where there are rivers, there are rocks present at the beside of it. So what happens, the water erodes the rocks. So what happens, the rock is a mineral. It contains many minerals like irons, copper, salts and etc. So what happens when it erodes, the salt present in that rocks gets mixed in the water, but it's a very little amount of salt. It is a little amount of salt, but what happens if the land is also mineral? So what happens that the land containing salt gets eroded and get mixed in the river. So by this process, the salt get deposited into the river, and we have learned in our geography that all the river comes at the oceans except some rivers. So what happens, for taking example also, river Narmada, Mahanadi, Kaveri, Godavari, and all the river gets connected to the ocean and the sea afterwards. So the sea, so the many rivers contains the salt particle, and they deposit the salt to the ocean. And one question is there, then if salt is present in the rivers and the lakes, then why we are not feeling it salty? Because rivers are always flowing. Rivers are always flowing, whereas the oceans and the sea are still in nature. So what happens when the rivers and the lakes are flowing, the salt particles also keep flowing and they doesn't get accumulate. And in the other case, the sea and the ocean are still, so accumulation process takes place there. This was the first reason, which only affect 20%. And the 80% which affects the ocean and the seawater salinity is the hydrothermal vent. By the name hydrothermal, hydro means water and thermal means heat. So what happens that when we have studied that beside the seabed is the lowest portion of the sea. So what happens, below the seabed, what is there is a semi-liquid called magma, and magma is very ignite. So what happens when the water is heated? So what we have studied in our lower standard, that a salt is a non-volatile substance. It doesn't get evaporated very easily. So what happens when the water is evaporated by the heat of the tectonic plates magma? So what happens, oxygen, magnesium and calcium gets displaced. And what is displaced? Ions, coppers, zincs, etc. are displaced, and we know that the mineral contains salt in them. So when they are displaced and it is sent to the hydrothermal vents, the salt present in the mineral comes out of the hydrothermal vent, and thus it makes the sea and the ocean saltier. And I am giving you a bonus trivia that the Caspian Sea and the Dead Sea are not the sea, they are the rivers. but they are called the sea because they are saline in nature. And why they are saline in nature? Because the Dead Sea and the Caspian Sea doesn't flow. They are still. So what happens? The first process, which is of the rainfall process, takes place and it gets saline. So this was for today's video. If you like the video, please like, share and subscribe my channel. Thank you.